Welcome everyone to a class of CFA level 1. In today's class, we will be doing a topic in ethics and the name of the topic is Global Investment Performance Standards. This class will be applicable for both 2025 and 2026 because the syllabus for 2026 has not changed and it is exactly the same as 25. Okay, so the topic that we are doing today is Global Investment Performance Standards. As you can see over here, Introduction to GIPS. This is Global Investment Performance Standards. And as you can see, in the entire curriculum of ethics, it is the last topic. So we have first topic as ethics and trust in investment profession. The second is code of ethics and standards. The third is guidance to standards, and fourth is GIPS. Right now, GIPS is a topic which in level 1 has no complexity, easy to score, and gives you an opportunity to get a good percentile to increase your percentile in ethics. So I'm sure if you would have gone through the other topics, you would have seen, see, this topic, the ethics and trust in investment profession, it does not have a lot of content, right? So you cannot expect a lot of questions out of it, correct? The major essence of ethics lies in these two topics, code of ethics and guidance to standards. And I'm sure if you would have gone through the content, you would have seen that they are not simple topics, correct? They have a lot of complexities involved. There are a lot of case studies and students often confuse in the case studies, right? So this itself increases the significance of having a good grip over GIPS. Why? Because in each of the session you can expect at least two questions on GIPS, and if you answer it correctly, because it will be a straightforward question, right? So if you answer it correctly, there are high chances that you will score a good percentile on ethics, right? If you look at the material that I've prepared, in my material it is a simple two-pager chapter, right? Which we will try to cover, in roughly 15-20 minutes. So any student who is preparing for level 1 in 25 and 26, it can be a worthy investment of yours to give this 15-20 minutes and get through the topic, right? So let us start. So let us start with GIPS. What is GIPS? It is Global Investment Performance Standard. Okay. One more thing about the material that I've prepared is that if you can see, there are just 2 pages on GIPS and then it's done. Trust me, guys, if you do this content and if you solve all the institute questions, right, then you don't need to study any other material, right? But you have to religiously study what I've written over here and also do the institute questions. Okay. So let us take the topic one by one. Why are GIPS created? So reason, what is the reason for establishment of GIPS? Due to the following misleading practices. So what is it saying? That since there were existing misleading practices in the industry, in order to counter those practices, the GIPS were created. Okay. What is number one? Number one is representative accounts. Number two is survivorship bias, and number three is varying time period. Okay. So over here, if you see, survivorship bias is an important term, and I'm sure you would have heard it for the first time if you are looking this video straight away, or if you have done some other topics. It is there in other topics, right? So what is survivorship bias? Survivorship bias is a bias where poorly performing assets are removed from the investment return calculation. Okay. So basically, if I have 1 crore rupees and I have invested in 10 assets over the period of 10 years, if suppose 8 assets has performed and 2 has not performed, so when I will calculate my return to show my to my investor, I will not show the return on those 2 assets. So if 1 crore was invested in 10 assets where 8 performed nicely and 2 did not perform, then this will be excluded from performance calculation. So don't you think because of this the returns will always appear to be higher? There is an upward bias of my performance, right? So this gives an inaccurate picture to the investor. So in order to counter these kind of practices, there was a standard which was developed and which will say that what to include in performance presentation and what to not, right? Similarly, varying time period. What does this mean? It means that earlier what people used to do is that based on the convenience of time period they used to present the information. For example, if suppose there is a fund, okay, which is running for 10 years. Now suppose my 10-year return is 10%, my 5-year return is 20%, but there's a problem now. My 3-year return is just 7%. Okay, then what will the fund do? The fund will either present a 10-year performance or a 5-year performance, but it will not show a 3-year performance. Why? Because my 3-year performance is not nice. So they will choose such a time period in which their performance always appears to be higher. Again, this will mislead the investor, right? So in order to counter that, uh, GIPS has provided what is the time period for which you should present the performance and how the performance should be presented. So now we have seen why it was created. Then objectives of GIPS. What are the objectives of GIPS? Obtain global acceptance. Yes. Now someone sitting in India, a fund sitting in India, will present the performance in a manner which is similar to the fund which is present in US or a fund present in UK. Right? They will not adopt their own standards of performance presentation. So a global investor can compare funds of different countries. So global acceptance. Ensure consistency and accuracy in investment performance. Yes. Since I have provided you a black and white criteria as to what is to be included in the performance presentation and what is not to be included in performance presentation, now we are sure as an investor that if the investment performance presentation is as per the GIPS, it is accurate. The third is promote global self regulation. Yes, the measures which GIPS provide encourages the funds to self regulate themselves. What will be the benefit? It will eventually benefit the investors. Yes, it will eventually benefit the investors. What are GIPS? GIPS are practitioner driven set of ethical standards. They are standardized in nature, industry wide approach for presenting historical investment results, ensure fair presentation and disclosure. So, in short, if I have to say, GIPS are standards for investment performance presentation, standards of investment performance presentation to ensure fairness and accuracy. Correct. So I'm sure by reading these three, subheads, why they were created, objectives, and what is GIPS, you are now into a sense as to what was the reason of developing GIPS. right? Now let us go into pretty straightforward topics. Key characteristics of GIPS. To claim compliance, first define the firm. Okay. So GIPS says that if you have to say whether the compliance is happening or not, we have to define a firm. Okay. They are ethical standards, correct? Now GIPS will apply to all actual fee paying discretionary portfolio in a composite for a minimum of 5 years or inception. This is an important sub point, and you can expect questions on it. So what is it saying? It is applicable to all actual portfolios which are fee paying portfolios and discretionary in nature, and it will have performance of 5 years or since inception. Again, what does it mean? It means that if a fund or a firm has created a dummy portfolio, what is a dummy portfolio? Which means that this portfolio is only created for testing purpose. No money was deployed. Okay. In that situation, it will not be a part of GIPS presentation. Second, fee paying. Suppose the fund invests its own money and create a portfolio. So when the fund is investing its own money and not the investor's money, do you think they will pay any fees? Do you think they will receive any fees? No. Hence, they are non-fee paying portfolios. Again, non-fee paying is not a part of my GIPS performance. Third is discretionary portfolio. Suppose, let me take an example of discretionary. Suppose there is a person A and suppose there is a person B. Okay. Suppose there is a fund. Okay. Now A has given $1,000 and B has given $1,000. Okay. Now B has told fund that I trust you and you can deploy the money as you wish. Okay. On the other hand, A says I am an expert and fund will make investment only basis my direction. In this situation, B will be a discretionary, B will be part of a discretionary portfolio. Why? Because over here the fund has the discretion of investment. So B will be a part of discretionary portfolio and A will be a part of non-discretionary portfolio. Why? Because the fund do not have the discretion to use the money as they like. Okay. Now the question would that you should ask me is that, sir, why discretionary and why not non-discretionary? Okay. Just think of a situation that the non-discretionary portfolio underperforms the benchmark to a great extent. What will the fund say? It will say that, boss, I did not have the power to select the right kinds of investment. Then why should I present it in my performance and show that my performance is weak? Because I was never controlling those assets, right? On the other hand, think of a situation if the non discretionary portfolio outperforms, then they would want to include them in the performance presentation. But the logic applies the same. Did the firm take any action or any decision for such a positive result? The answer is no. Since the answer is no, then why should the firm get a credit out of it? And thus, only discretionary portfolios are part of the presentation. Again, it shows either you should have a minimum 5-year performance or it should be since inception, because there can be firms or there can be funds which are in existence for less than 5 years. So what will we do? Correct? Then the next point. After presenting 5 years of composite data, firm must add annual performance each year going forward to a minimum 10 years. So what does this mean? It means that you have to be GIPS compliant from the inception till 5th year, and then after 5th year every year you have to comply with GIPS till 10th year. So for example, if suppose a fund was launched in 2014, okay, so till 2019 they have to show GIPS compliance information in 2020, and every year after this they have to be GIPS compliance. In 2024 they will have to show 10 years GIPS compliance investment returns, right? Now what will happen in 2025? So what does that line means? It means that in 2025 you will show the returns from 2015 to 2025. You can exclude 2020 2014 in the presentation. In 2025 only 10 years are of performance is okay. 10 years of performance presentation is satisfactory. You don't need to show the 11th year. But since these are standards of best practices over here, if you see, the statement is minimum 10 years. So if the fund wants that, no, I want to also present the 2014 performance, then they can. But the criteria is minimum 10 years. Okay. Again, this is an important point. It can come in the questions. No partial GIPS compliance. Again, very important. Means you can easily expect one question on this point. What does this mean? No partial GIPS compliance. It means that you cannot say that I am GIPS compliant on this part of the portfolio and I am non GIPS compliant on. So for example, if this is my fund, okay, which I am defining as a firm, you cannot say that this portion of my fund is GIPS compliant and this is non GIPS compliant. You cannot do so. You have to be GIPS compliant for the entire part of the portfolio. You have to be GIPS compliant for the entire part of the portfolio. Okay. Certain recommendations may become requirement in future. So today, some of them are recommendations. They may require become a part of requirements. I guess it has to be corrected. In case of conflicts, in case of conflict between country specific GIPS and GIPS, follow the local law but disclose the conflict. Okay. So what does this say? Since this is an international standard, it is saying that if there is a investment performance standard of your own country, Means if your statutory regulation require you to present the performance in certain manner, and if they are in contradiction to the international laws, then follow the local law, but at the same time make disclosures. Okay. Now if you would have seen, we studied a term known as composite. Over here we will see what is a composite. A composite is a group of individual discretionary portfolios. We now know what is a discretionary, which are actual and fee paying. Again, we have understood what is actual and fee paying, representing similar investment strategies, objectives, and mistakes. Okay. So, what does it mean? If my fund has 50 portfolios, okay, 5 portfolios are such where my investment style is same, where my investment objective is same, where my strategy is same, then I will combine them together to be called as a composite. And GIPS require me to present the performance of that composite rather than showing performance of 5 different portfolios. Okay. So if suppose this my firm and these are my portfolios, portfolio 1, portfolio 2, portfolio 3, portfolio 4, portfolio 5. Okay. What GIPS is saying that if they are part of the same composite, present the performance of C1 rather than presenting the performance of P1, P2, and P3 separately. Okay, cool. The next topic that we will see is verification. Verification of GIPS. What is verification? It is like audit. Audit of what? Audit of whether the company is GIPS compliant or not. Okay. It is performed by third party, similar to audit. Statutory audit is never done by the entity. It is always done by the third party, not by the firm. It is done on firm wide basis. Yes. Why? Because there is no partial GIPS compliance. Okay. Verification must attest that the firm has complied with all GIPS standards and requirements on firm-wide basis. Process and procedures are established to present information in accordance with GIPS. Okay. Recommendations. Specific disclosure language. It not only applies to stated selected composite but the entire firm's performance. Okay. Not a very important discussion. The only important thing to be understood is this two first 2 points, done by third party and done on firm wide basis. The last section on which you can expect some of the some of the last section from which some of the questions might come or might not come, because the most important these are these one, the one which I have marked in orange, right? It is just a basic information good for you to know. First is what are the sections. So you have to understand there are 8 sections of GIPS. Section 1, fundamentals of compliance. What is fundamental of compliance? It will provide the definition of a firm. It will provide documenting policies and procedures. Complying with GIFs update, because these standards are updated based on the new financial instruments and product that come in the market and the changes which are happening. Claim competence of the appropriate manner, appropriate verification statement. The second section is input data and calculation methodology. So how will my input data will be there in terms of calculating the historical performance, and how the historical performance will be calculated. This section provides that it must be consistent to establish a full, fair, comparable investment performance, uniformity across firm. So again, if you see that these are more of a principles rather than rules, right? So you have to remember GIPS are more from principle standpoint rather than the rules. The third is composite construction and pooled funds. Composite returns are asset weighted returns on the portfolio that are included in each composite. Creation of a meaningful asset weighted composite is required. So what does it say? it says that when you are creating the composite for whose you will be doing the performance presentation, you need to be very mindful, and you need to ensure that all the similar portfolios are clubbed together and all the dissimilar portfolios are separated. Because if you see, if a composite has various portfolios comprising of different strategies, objectives and policies, then there is no point of building a composite, right? So as a investment firm, you need to be very logical, and you need to be very accurate in terms of how you create your composite. The fourth section is disclosure. It must be understandable to the user. Definitely the disclosure is said to be good only when it is understandable. Presenting and reporting. The sixth is real estate. Sixth is specific to real estate. Seventh is specific to private equity, valued as per GIPS private equity valuation principles, unless investments are open ended or evergreen funds. Eighth is wrap fees or separately managed accounts, customized accounts for which requirement and recommendation are supplemented is to be replaced. Now, a last and important point. If an advertisement includes a compliance with GIPS, the advertisement must comply with these guidelines. These guidelines do not apply to advertisement that don't reference to a firm's GIPS compliance. So what does it say? It says that if you are advertising your fund and you are saying that I am GIPS compliant, then if you are saying you are GIPS compliant, then you have to be compliant. If you are not claiming any sort of GIPS compliance, then you are not required to actually be compliant about it. So guys, if you see, with this we are done with our uh, topic of introduction to GIPS. I hope this video is useful, and we will be coming out with more videos in the coming time, more shorter videos in the coming time. Additionally, if you wish to purchase this book is a 330 pager book which covers your entire content for CFA level 1. You can buy it from the website or you can buy it from the application. The link is given in the description. And I hope you like this video. If you have any feedback, you can also WhatsApp me on the number. You can mail on the email ID given, and I'll reach out to you within 24 hours. Thank you guys again for giving me your time, and I hope your studies are going great.